So, what do you believe? What do you know? We talk a lot around here in Science of Mind about change your thinking, change your life. And the spiritual practice of deep inquiry, questioning, is a healing practice, really. And our brains seem to be wired for us to find answers. And I don't know if that's because of being in school and we were taught we have to have the answers, or if there's something really chemically wired in our brains that way. But it just seems to me that when we have questions, when we ask questions, that our brain wants to go out there and find those answers. But do you really investigate and question what you know? And I think that's a key in this spiritual journey that we have, is really understanding what it is that we believe. And if you've ever had a prayer that you felt like was not answered, anybody ever felt that way? My prayer's not answered. I've been doing this, right? And if you have, you may have felt a bit skeptical about your beliefs at that time, or maybe you even had some doubts about this teaching of the science of mind. Does this stuff even work? Does this stuff even work? I have affirmed, I have treated and moved my feet, I've meditated, I've visioned, and still Mr. or Mrs. Right is nowhere in sight. My bank account is still empty. And, oh, my aching back. Have I told you about my aching back? Right? Does this stuff even work? And by the way, did God just go on this long vacation about March and forget about little old planet Earth, right? You ever felt that way? Well, of course, I'm jesting about all of that, right? But feeling skeptical about our spiritual beliefs and doubting this connection to Source is part of our spiritual journey of faith. So congratulations. If you're doubting, if you're skeptical, it's all part of the journey. It's all part of the journey. And that's what we're talking about this month. Faithing our fears. Faithing our fears. And my talk today is skepticism, doubt, and faith, and how that all works together on our spiritual journey. I think it is really important that we do recognize that questioning is natural and is a very important part of our journey, because it helps us to better understand and evaluate our beliefs. And it also helps us then to grow and to expand and continue on our spiritual evolution. I've used the example before, if you've been here for a while, about green plants, and as they are coming up through the earth, how the wind acts as part of their growing process. They need the wind, because what happens is the wind gently breaks down the cells, and then they regrow and rebuild stronger and more firm so that it can support the bigger plant. You see a little bitty green shoot of a plant, and it supports a large plant later on, and that's part of that process of life. And the same is true for us. The same is true for us. When we hit this doubt and skepticism and things, and we question and we investigate, we're building up that strength. We're building up our faith. We're building up our muscles. Anybody remember when they were a kid? What'd you want to be? Fireman, police officer, president, astronaut, veterinarian. That's a big one, right? A lot of kids want to be a veterinarian. Yeah. Well, most of us don't grow up and do those things, do we? We grow, we expand, we find different options and opportunities, and we end up doing usually something else. Very few people follow that life path of a 5-year-old, right? Very few do. And now, as adults, as this part of our life, if we want to learn something new, what do? We read a book, we take a class, we go to a workshop, maybe we go to the internet, and we look up YouTube videos on how to fix a washing machine, or how to bake the perfect pot roast, or if we want to explore some other spiritual teachings. What do they think about God? What do they believe about prayer and these different beliefs and things? We go and we research. And maybe that research is external to us on that wide world web, and maybe it's internal research, internal questioning, asking. Ernest Holmes, who's the founder of Centers for Spiritual Living and also the author of The Science of Mind, which is the book that we teach from, the philosophy, he has another book called The Power of Ideas. And in that, he tells us that no matter how many thoughts of doubt enter our minds, let us brush them aside. If we do this, we will discover that through the Spirit within us, we will meet every doubt that enters our mind with a greater faith. We will meet every confusion with a deeper sense of calmness. We will need to take the time to do this every day, to start and end our day with a sense of peace and well-being. Practice brushing doubts aside. Now, if you were here last week, you might remember the practice that we talked about. I don't know what anything means. Remember that? I don't know what anything means. I'm a great story maker-upper. I'm going to give everything in my life meaning because it makes me comfortable and makes me feel safe, right? We're great story maker-uppers. But in reality, we really don't know what anything means. That big, hairy, negative thing that we're making up all this meaning about might actually be at some juncture of our life a good thing for us. And that thing we think is great, wonderful, and awesome might not end up being that great, wonderful, and awesome. We don't really know what anything means. So combining these two processes, brushing away the doubts because I don't know what anything means. I don't know what anything means. And this has certainly been a year for that, hasn't it? Would you agree? I don't know what anything means, right? I don't know what anything means. As this pandemic has unfolded over the last 6 months, I've questioned, I've doubted, I've had fears, I've reevaluated, I've regrouped many, many times. And I would bet most of us have. It's been a most unusual experience for us, something I'm guessing none of us have been through before. And yet here we are. Recently, the fall season for me as a minister is usually a time of planning. In Arizona, we're through the major heat now, and we start looking at the fall and the things that we can do to come together in community, the holidays that we can celebrate, the parties that we can have. And then looking at 2021, I start planning this far in advance for the following year, getting our classes organized and the talk series organized and all of those fun things. And I am having a lot of more questions than clarity right now. A lot more questions than clarity right now. How can I plan for a holiday service? I had envisioned the big holiday tree and all of the events and the candlelight and all the things that we usually do. I don't know if we can do that this year. We'll wait and see. Parties, celebrations, again, classes. My crystal ball is not very clear. Is yours? Does anybody have a clear crystal ball? I'd like to borrow it. But what I've discovered in this process, as we discover in all of our processes and all of our challenges, is that I was allowing fear. I was allowing fear and the world of effects that's happening out there to cloud my consciousness and to restrict the flow of source through me. Now, we're beings of choice. We know that Spirit's always giving, always flowing through us at full speed ahead, but we're beings of choice, and we can shut down those channels through our beliefs, right? We can shut down those channels. We can believe in lack and only let through a little bit of good. We can believe in fear and barricade ourselves and not allow through the vision of infinite possibilities in which we live. And that's exactly what I was doing. So what I came up with was a little better question for me anyway, and I'd like to share that with you. As I began questioning, what is it that I want to do? What is the vision of this going forward? When I let go of the fear. When I let go of the fear of failing, of not having it right, of not being able to implement the plan, the fear of disappointing anybody, the fear of, losing anybody, anything. What is the possibility when I can let go of that stuff? What is the possibility when I can let go of that stuff? Visioning is a very powerful spiritual practice, where we open ourselves to allow Spirit's higher vision to flow through us, to get a divine idea, one we aren't coming up with on our own in this world of effects, but a larger vision. But fear is a very powerful emotion. Would you agree? Yeah, fear is a very powerful emotion that allows us to shut down that channel. Facing our fears is really a practice. And it allows us to open the channel, to face those fears, to open the channel. And basically it's that practice that we talk about of facing what is. Yeah, that's what is. But turning away from that to focus on exactly what it is that we would prefer instead. What's on the other side of the fear? What's on the other side of it? I recognize that there's a lot of fears that can constrict the flow of Spirit through us, and we all probably have individual ones. The ones that came to me seem to be kind of universal. Fear of failure, we hear that all the time. A lot of people have that fear. I'm not going to try that. I could fail. I'd look like a crazy person if I tried that and failed. We have those beliefs. But you need to find your own through this process of questioning. It might be that you feel a sense of duty or obligation to someone or something that you can't move beyond, that feels like a restriction. Perhaps it's age, I'm too old. Perhaps it's finances, I don't have enough. Can't do it, couldn't possibly do it. So I don't see a possibility in that. You can see how we allow those limitations to keep us from seeing the infinite possibilities beyond the fear. I invite you to play with this in consciousness. Have you ever thought of consciousness as a playground? A place where we can explore and question, we can doubt, we can do all those things. It's a place where we can let go of the fear and play that what if game. Gosh, what if I didn't feel that obligation? What if I didn't believe I was too old? What if I didn't believe I didn't have enough? What could I see as a possibility then? What I discovered in this process for me was it opened up my imagination. Fear had stolen my imagination. My ability to be creative, to play, to visualize what's on the other side of fear. Now, I was feeling blocked by the what isness of COVID and the current situation, the current circumstances. And I was giving it the power to restrict the channel through me. Now I recognize I may not be the only one that's feeling blocked right now. Anybody else out there? Maybe? I had allowed the stress in the world events to steal my imagination. So if you're feeling blocked, if you're feeling fearful, if you're feeling challenged about life right now, consider this practice of deep questioning. Spending some time with yourself, try some deep questioning. What if I wasn't afraid? Where would I go? What would I do? What's on the other side of my fear? I know I talk to you a lot every week about spiritual practices. Would you agree? I bring it up every week. Well, I do it because they work, okay? They work. I've seen them proven in my life. They keep me sane in an insane world. I can't imagine the last 6 months without my tools in my spiritual toolbox to help move me through it. Did anybody see the Edward Viyun and Deepak Chopra interview on Facebook this week? Okay, it's posted up on our Facebook page, Scottsdale CSL, and it was a really interesting. It's only 15 minutes long. He's got a new book coming out called Total Meditation. And there is a webinar. This was the introduction for the webinar like they do. And the webinar is coming up on October the 5th. For your price of admission to that webinar, it's 90 minutes long. They will mail you a copy of his new book. It's fascinating if you're familiar with Deepak and what he does. He's done all of this research, both in the meditation side, but also they partnered with, I think, Harvard University and Duke University and Scripps and several other people to prove the benefits of meditation, to actually prove it. We've known it for a long time in our spiritual practices and the benefits. They are now coming out with the studies that prove the impacts on our bodies, our minds, and our well-being. So this is fascinating. You can go listen to the interview, sign up for the webinar on the 5th. They'll mail you a copy of the book, and it's a very, very exciting thing. But he has in there, he talked about the simple guide to meditation. And I copied it down, and Joe made a beautiful little flyer for us. And it's a real simple process. And he says the first thing when people go, I can't meditate, I can't turn off my brain, right? Anybody have that problem? Can't stop my thoughts. Meditation's not about stopping our thoughts. Isn't that nice to know? It's not about stopping our thoughts. He says the first step is to just sit down and do nothing. Can anybody do that? 20 minutes. Sit down and do nothing. You have begun. I love that. I love that. We can all do that. The second step is to add a practice of self-inquiry. And that's what we're talking about today, is these questions of self-inquiry. Who am I? What do I want? What is my purpose? What am I grateful for? And we started out this morning with what am I grateful for, didn't we? So you've already accomplished that piece of it. So you're halfway there. And then third part is then in the stillness, as answers begin to come, add a mantra or mindfulness and continue to deepen your practice. So these are available for you in the lobby. Pick one up and take it with you this week. Do we have them on the website? No, can we? Joe will post them on the website for those of you at home. You can download it later this afternoon, hopefully. So that is a simple guide to meditation, a spiritual practice for you that you can use every day. Ernest Holmes tells us in The Science of Mind, undoubtedly, each of us is now demonstrating our concept of life. But trained thought is far more powerful than untrained. And when we give conscious power to our thought, we should be more careful what we think. The more power we give to our thought, the more completely we believe that our thought has power, the more power it will have. The more power it will have. Our spiritual technology of affirmative prayer is unique to the New Thought. It's unique to New Thought spirituality. And it is designed step by step to move us into a conscious acceptance of the good of God that we seek in our lives. It's scientifically engineered to bring us to that conclusion. There's 5 steps in the process that we follow that brings us to the conclusion. Of course, it's all right here. It's a very scientific process. Holmes tells us it's not our business to run the entire universe. Yay! Don't you feel better? It's not our business to run the entire universe, but we do have a perfect right to govern our own environment. Nothing can hinder our doing this but doubt and a limited concept of our relationship to the universe. Powerful stuff. Our spiritual practices are the exercises that support us in building those faith muscles and removing any doubt that we might have to accept our true relationship to the universe. We are the beloved sons and daughters of God. We are. And when we can accept that fact and know that we live in this field of infinite possibilities, I'll put those two things together. We are the beloved children of God, and we live in a playground of infinite possibilities where miracles are common occurrences. When we can accept all that, we'll experience the life of our dreams, won't we? How can we not? How can we not? Let's close out today with our spiritual practices for this week, okay? And don't forget to sign up for Mindful Monday if you're not on that list already and you'd like to receive that Monday morning email. It gives you the quotes from today. It also gives you the details of the spiritual practices that you can then use in your practice throughout the week. So this week I've got 3 for us. The first one is to practice meditation each day for at least 20 minutes. Pick up your simple guide to meditation if you need one, but commit yourself to a practice for 7 days this week, every day. Just commit to that and see what happens. Monitor your life. Pay attention. What's happening in my life? I'm meditating every day. What's going on? And see what influences happen in your environment. Notice. Pay attention. Number 2, contemplate the question. Use the idea of deep inquiry and contemplate the question. What do I really want when I let go of this fear that is standing in my way? The fear of, you fill in the blank for you. You fill in the blank for you. Maybe it's the fear of failing, of disappointing someone or losing someone or something. Or if it's a feeling of obligation or something or someone standing in the way. Am I too old? I don't have enough money. It could be anything. Only you know what that is. Allow yourself to really ask these deep questions. Spend some time with them. Listen for your answers, and then listen for the resistance. This fear may have been an old friend for a very long time. There may be resistance that comes up. So look at that too, and choose to do some deeper work with it. Number 3 is to practice spiritual mind treatment. Do you know we have these flyers in the lobby? They are affirmative prayer, and in these we have the explanation of the steps of affirmative prayer. We have a sample of affirmative prayer, and then we have a space for you to write your own. So I invite you to pick one of these up if you don't have it and practice affirmative prayer this week. Take what you received through your contemplation of what would my life be if I didn't have this fear, if I believed in infinite possibilities, and write your treatment around that. Write your treatment around that. Pairing these spiritual practices up for you this week is a little powerhouse, I guess, of spiritual practices for us for moving forward on our spiritual journey. So I will say in closing that if you find yourself beginning to struggle with life, if you're, this pandemic is going on and on and on. I don't know about you, but I'm sensing and I'm talking to a lot of people that are feeling like it's becoming a real heavy load to carry. And I'm encouraging us to reach into community. Connection's what we're missing. It's what I'm missing. It's what I believe a lot of us are missing, is the connection. We can get out of our houses, we can come here, we can do things, but we're not having the connection like we used to have. So I invite you to connect here in community. If you're willing to come here, join us on Tuesday evening for our book study conversation. Join the class on Thursday. Connect in community with class. Yes, those are on Zoom, but at least we're connecting with each other. We're spending a couple of hours together. Join us for that. Reach out for prayer. I'm available to us for prayer. Reach out. Let me know if we need prayer support or any sort of a counseling session or anything. But connection is what we're missing. And just simply tune in, join in, step in. I want to leave us today with one final quote from Ernest Holmes. He says, "Today we may meet difficulties, uncertainties, and doubts, barriers walling our passage. But we must not be discouraged when so confronted. We must climb over the rocks of unbelief, pass around the barriers of doubt, and plunge into the stream with faith. The stream will ever widen. The barriers will gradually disappear. Though we walk through the plains and valleys of indecision and doubt, the stream will still carry us back to the ocean of our being." And so it is. Beautiful. So would you join me as we anchor this in an affirmative prayer this morning? So recognizing that there is one life, that life is God. And all of that thing we call life, that spark of life, that energy that we know to be the one energy of the universe, the one presence, the one power, that is God, infinite source. It is love and harmony. It is divine right order, irrespective of appearances. It is peace and wholeness and harmony. It is intelligence and wisdom. And as I know that is the single source of all that is, it is my source. It is that of which I am made manifest, individualized and unique for this specific time-space reality right here, right now. I am that order and peace and harmony. I am that love, that joy, that wholeness. And as I know this of myself, I know it for each one of us that's gathered here today. Whether we're in the room and in our physical presence, whether we're online or listening to this recording later, we are all in this one. There is no separation. There's only the one wholeness of life in, through, and as each one of us. And so I speak my word this day for and about each of us gathered, knowing, claiming, and accepting the wholeness that we are. That though we may question, though we may doubt, it's part of our process. It's part of our growth. It's part of our expansion. It's part of our evolution, the evolution of life through us, as this leading edge of consciousness that we are. I know for anyone that has anything on their heart this day that they are seeking prayer around, as we lift that into the consciousness of this prayer, I know healing. I know the revelation of clarity for any unanswered questions. I know the flow of prosperity and abundance of God. I know life and love and joy, whatever the need. It is answered here this day. And so in great gratitude and joy and thanksgiving, I release this into the action of law, the activity of mind, knowing that it is done, it is so, and we affirm together, and so it is.